All right, we are live in the webinar. It's a little early, so people are rolling in, so bear with us. Give us a few more minutes and we'll get this kicking off. So if you're joining us now, welcome. And we'll get this started in a few minutes. So, okay. Oh, yeah, okay. There we go. All right. All right. People are joining, rolling in. Welcome, everybody. We are going to start in a few more minutes. Just give us a few more minutes. Okay. All right. To respect everybody's time, I think we're just going to kick this off and people can join as they join. So welcome everybody to our webinar today. Webinar is how to reduce costs and complexity in B2B e-commerce before 2026 hits. Obviously, that's right around the corner. So think of this as how to reduce costs and complexities in B2B commerce in general. We are going to hit on a few topics today. Oh, before that, a little housekeeping. Feel free to use the Q&A box to ask questions. We save time at the end for Q&A, so you can always type in the questions in Q&A, but we'll also open it up at the end. This is being recorded and it will be sent to your email. And then at the end, we'll share a code for a demo and proof of concept. Okay, on the webinar today, I'm Matt Harris, founder of Harris Digital. We also have with us Matthias Schreiber, Executive Director of the Magento Association, and Olga Bond, Account Executive at Sales Layer. So I am an implementer of these, my agency, and then we have a representative of an e-commerce platform, the Association for an E-commerce Platform. We have a representative of PIM. So that's who's talking today. And the agenda is what's holding back B2B commerce. So the fastest growing area in e-commerce is B2B, but it's also the most complex. So that's also why it's one of the slowest things to kind of get on the bandwagon of doing e-commerce. So we're going to discuss what's holding it back, and then what are the hidden cost drivers in B2B e-commerce. So also complexity costs, and then what is a PIM and how can it help your business grow? That's the third thing. And then we're going to talk about Magento open source and the value of that platform and how it's maybe different than other platforms and how it might be a really good fit for B2B e-commerce. And then finally, we're going to talk about product data and how it's really at the core of your B2B success process and business. So I'll start. Again, Matt Harris, what's holding B2B commerce back in 2025? Well, what makes B2B commerce different is that it has a complex buying journey. We're not always buying products in the same way. Customer A, customer B, customer C, they could see different things. They could have different ways of buying, and which means it's not a credit card, it's a order request or it's a purchase order, and they might even have different catalogs and products that can see in different pricing. Also, older businesses, a lot of times B2B businesses are older businesses, 30, 40, 50, 60, even 100 years old. So they have outdated systems that when you try to connect an e-commerce head onto it, things don't really go smoothly. And so that's one of the other things holding them back. And then disorganized product data. This comes up all the time. Products in different silos. Marketing has one set, engineering has another set, operations has another set. Different departments are by different product categories, so then another set. So different product data spread all across the organization. Very common. The buyers are demanding increased speed and personalization. So now the buyers are saying, I don't want to keep buying the way I used to. I don't want to just call on the phone. I don't want to send in a fax. I don't want to open up the print catalog. So that's the buyers are demanding a new way to buy, and these older businesses are having a struggle meeting those demands. And then it's a costly process of publishing legacy data online. A lot of times the data is actually stuck in like a print catalog or a PDF, and we're having a hard time getting that product data out to an e-commerce head where people can see it, sort, search, etc. Modern e-commerce platform, another thing holding people back. Okay, so I'm passing it over to Olga. She's going to explain to you guys what a PIM is.
Thanks, Matt. Hi, everyone. So I'm Olga from SalesLair, and I partner with manufacturers in order to streamline their product data. So as a company, we've been in the PIM space for about 12 years now, and not only we've had the chance to work closely with hundreds of manufacturers, we've always been genuinely interested and curious about understanding our customers' business models and learning about the unique realities they face every single day. And here is what we've learned. No matter how different the company, the products, or the systems are, the biggest cost drivers, sorry, Matt, if you can just move on to the next. Yeah, perfect, thanks. Or the systems are, the biggest cost drivers almost always trace back to one thing: poor or inconsistent product data. So let's break this down. Firstly, many manufacturers still manage compliance data in disconnected spreadsheets or systems, which means no expiry tracking, no audit trail. What's the result? Missed certifications, blocked shipments, or in product recalls. Secondly, manual pricing updates are slow. Manual pricing updates or slow approvals can cause procurement dispute and lost contracts. On the revenue loss, now that happens when incomplete specs or missing images cause buyers to abandon their quotes altogether. And then finally, when product information is wrong or inconsistent across catalogs, there is a high probability of getting costly returns and unhappy customers. So when we look back at all these examples, it might seem like a mix of separate issues, but in reality, they all stem from one thing: disconnected product information. But the good news is there is always a way to fix it. Now, before we go any further and start breaking down how these problems can be solved, let's take it back and have a look at what a PIM is and what it actually does. For those who might not be familiar, a PIM stands for Product Information Management. And essentially, it's a system that consolidates, enriches, and connects all of your product information in one place. And then every manufacturer that I speak with says the same thing to me: Olga, our product data is scattered, we have inconsistent information everywhere, and then it slows down the sales. You have great products, but your data is holding you back. So now that we know what a PIM is and what it generally does, let's see how it actually fixes those problems that we just touched upon earlier. Matt? So it enforces compliance by aligning every product attribute with regulatory requirements from one single source of truth. On the pricing side of things, workflows and connectors keep prices synced with your ERP and with your e-commerce, so once approved, they're correct everywhere. Revenue loss is fixed by quality scores, which highlights missing data before it goes live. So you improve data completeness and accuracy, leading to higher conversion rates. And then last but not least, returns and support. Once the data is clean, verified record for every single product, that keeps all of your channels consistent and customers are happy. In the end, it's not just about better content. It's about accurate, consistent data that protects your margins and your brand. Thanks, Matt. All those issues that we talked about, the chaos, the inefficiencies, the hidden costs, they're not just theory. Real companies have faced the same challenges and completely turned things around. Take Bragg, for example, the US health food and manufacturer. You probably know them for their apple cider vinegar. They went from spending 5 hours a day in Excel to just 1 hour working in their PIM. That's 80% efficiency boost every single day. Or Franz Bonham, a building materials company. They reduced their order processing time from 3 days to just 1. That kind of improvement doesn't just make life easier, it speeds up revenue. And these aren't isolated cases. Across the board, companies are seeing efficiency gains from about 60 to 80%. Moving swiftly on, I want to wrap our PIM conversation with something really exciting, our advancements in AI. At SalesLayer, we've been working on bringing artificial intelligence into the workday every single day for our users. Not as a flashy add-on, but as something that genuinely helps team work faster and smarter. Right now, we're already using AI for the enrichment side of things. So we use ChatGPT to create high-quality product descriptions. Each one is optimized for search, but more importantly, it helps teams produce complete, accurate content in less time. So what does this next step look like? Our co-founder and chief product officer came up with this great idea to build what we call an AI hub. You can think of it as a kind of AI workspace where different AI assistants are set up for specific tasks. The AI Hub is to be released as early as at the end of this month. So I'd say you're among the lucky ones to see it before our official launch. What's really useful is that these AI agents don't just automate work, they also show in real time how much time and money they can save. So it's a clear way to see the value of automation in action. On the screen right now, you can see these AI assistants and what they're capable of. And then to wrap up, what we usually see when manufacturers after they start using a PIM, is a real shift in the way teams work. Tasks that once took weeks can now be done in just a few days. So teams become super efficient, so around 80% more productive because they're no longer chasing spreadsheets or waiting on manual approvals. And with data being updated in real time, everyone from engineering to marketing to e-commerce is working from the same accurate spot. That means fewer mistakes, faster launches, and a lot less stress and rework. Ultimately, it's about freeing people up to focus on improving product information, not fixing it. And the best part, well, these gains show up real fast. Most manufacturers see real impact within just a few weeks after going live. So I hope that this gave you a real clear picture of how PIM can make everyday work simpler, faster, and far more connected. Thanks for your attention, and I'm going to pass this over to Matthias now.
Hi, everyone. Quick introduction from my side. I'm Matthias Schreiber. I'm the Executive Director at Magento Association, which is a non-profit organization that basically powers all of the open source stuff. If Matt would be so kind to swap over. Thank you. So Magento Open Source is more than just an e-commerce platform. It's basically the foundation of your digital independence. In today's B2B world, where data is actually the most valuable asset, having control and transparency over your customer and transaction data is essential. So unlike other open source unlike other e-commerce platforms, a lot of open source platforms do it good. With Magento Open Source, you as a merchant keep their data fully in their own environment, ensuring that your compliancy with privacy regulations, giving business the confidence that their customers' data never leaves your control. At the same time, it's battle tested for almost 2 decades now, powering thousands of manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers worldwide, all while still being open source. Its modular design and open APIs make it easy to connect with ERP systems or PIM platforms like SalesLayer and other specialized tools, all while maintaining one central secure foundation for commerce, backed by over 100,000 developers globally, marketers, e-commerce specialists, and also implementation agencies like Harris Digital, whom we will hear a little bit more about later. And that's why many organizations use Magento open source as their core digital layer for e-commerce, integrating the best of breed systems around it. Moving on to the next slide, if you would be so nice. Thank you. So when you combine a PIM like SalesLayer with Magento open source, you create a connected ecosystem built on a clean, accurate, and privacy responsible data stream. The PIM ensures product data is consistent, enriched, and ready for every sales channel, while Magento in turn turns all that data into a powerful B2B experience. Custom pricing, quick reorders, account level permissions, seamless self-service, what your customers want, right? Because both systems communicate through open APIs, you get flexibility without compromising on security or compliance. This approach reduces manual work, onboarding time, and future integration costs, and it ensures that your customer and product data remain fully compliant and under your control. As we move toward 2026 with the rise of AI-driven commerce, having clean, structured, and secure data will make the difference between reacting to change or leading it. Magento open source plus a PIM solution plus a proper implementation agency, that becomes a scalable, intelligent, privacy-first growth engine for modern B2B commerce. So thanks, Matt. Handing over to you.
Thanks, Matthias. That was great. And thank you, Olga, for your presentation. So we're going to get back into stitching these two things together, because there's a PIM system where you've got all of your product data structured and organized, single source of truth. And then you have a platform like Magento that can allow you to sell that those products in different ways. So essentially, what you need to do in a modern B2B platform is to connect your product data to an e-commerce system, and then you need to connect your e-commerce system to a back office system, typically an ERP system. So in order to get automated order flow going, organized product data sent up to an e-commerce platform, orders going back into an ERP system so that ERP system can fulfill the orders. This is what a modern system looks like in its simplest version. Again, product data, organized, single source of truth, e-commerce system that absorbs that product data and sells it, and then the order flow goes back into an ERP system. Now, to get that complexity one layer more to show scaling, if you look at this diagram for a second and key on where SalesLayer is in the diagram, right in the middle. We have a product in our company called Ascend. And Ascend is essentially the connectors, the connecting tissue between the PIM and the e-commerce system and the ERP system. And then it's also a theme so that your product data can be very quickly put into a platform that can be sorted and searched by products. So think of it as like, I want to see the products in a bunch of different rows, or I want to see it in a spreadsheet. All of that front-end design, that user experience, is already pre-baked. It's done. And this is where the massive cost savings comes. So you get your product data into SalesLayer, organized, structured properly, and you push it over into Magento or Adobe Commerce, which is also a flavor of Magento that Adobe owns. And then you can create multiple sites. But let me get into that in a second. Once those orders come through, you can push the orders back to ERP, and that might be NetSuite or an old ERP or Dynamics or Sage or SAP, et cetera. It can be anything. But we also have a connector that does that. And then we also have the connector that pushes the pricing potentially back into the PIM or into the e-commerce layers. So sometimes that flow needs to be adjusted to meet business needs. So once once the connectors are in place, once the Magento theme is in place, and once that product information is organized and you have your Magento instance, now all of a sudden we could do something really powerful. We can create a site just for plumbing. We can make a site just for hardware. We can make one just for electrical. We can make one just for B2B. This requires login. We can make one only for a single customer if you need, and then we can make different sites for all the different languages. So typically an older business that's been doing business for a long time, they're not selling their products to one person one way and everybody else the exact same way. They're selling their products in different ways to different customers in different regions within different catalogs. What's powerful about this is that once the product data is organized and structured, you can start assigning tags to it to say, we want it to sell on this site, we want it to sell on this site, not this site. And then the Magento machine inherits those rules, and all of a sudden you're controlling multiple e-commerce experiences from one single source. And that's incredibly powerful. And that's how you scale into the next decade, essentially. Now, I have another thing on there called marketplaces. The power of the platform, the PIM system, is that you don't have to only sell on your own websites, which you have complete scalability there with Magento, but you can also push your product data to different marketplaces. So if you're in America and you're selling hardware, you might want to sell on Home Depot, Lowe's, Supply House, eBay, also your own websites. But guess what? All the fundamentals of that product data are in one system. So now you just push it out to the different channels. That's incredibly powerful. And frankly, that's how you're going to win the game. If you don't have this in place, everything's going to move really fast in the next 10 years. And so you need to compete against your competition, and you need to compete for those buyers who are expecting really easy ways to purchase. They're not going to call on the phone anymore. This is a system that can help you compete in what's going to be a rapidly changing ecosystem for e-commerce in the next 10 years. Okay, and that's it. I hope that was a lot of information. I hope that everyone was able to digest that. But now we are going to open it up to questions. Oh, no, sorry. Final thoughts. Olga, final thoughts.
Yes, thanks, Matt. So my final thought from what we've seen with working with manufacturers over the years, the biggest cost savings don't come from new systems. They come from simplicity. And if I had to give one piece of advice to our listeners, to manufacturers, it would be this: start cleaning and centralizing your product data now. The more centralized and structured your product data is, the less time and money you waste fixing mistakes later, and everything starts to run smoother. So as we move to 2026, the manufacturers who focus on clean, consistent data and smart automation will be the ones who stay ahead. So focus on getting your data house in order in one source of truth, have clear ownership and consistent standards. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This is what's going to get you ahead.
Thanks, Olga. Matthias, any final thoughts?
In regards to what the future holds, I think Olga and you put it together brilliantly. I can only recommend Magento as a system that has been built for merchants that run hundreds of thousands of SKUs, which is mainly manufacturing, and that's what we do really, really well. But I completely agree. Structured data, properly structured data, is what informs AI, what makes the AI models work. And it comes with with tons of other benefits. So it's like nobody questioning bringing their car to a car service, and having your data structured properly is basically like car service for your company. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, and I think part of what's going to make AI smarter and get the results it wants, because it's going to become the new search engine, is that the product data needs to have context. So what's the category? What's the taxonomy? Where does the schema? So that the machines that are ingesting this and learning from it need to know what it relates to. So the context is really important for these language models to learn. And if you don't have your product organized and contextualized, they won't be able to give you the benefits of those search results because they don't know where to put you in terms of, like, if someone's asking a question, oh, this is the answer, or if I'm looking for this part, this is exactly what you want. So that context is really important. Again, back to structured data. I will throw something out real quick about the value of open source, because the models are going to expand to the point where you're going to want scalability. And an open source platform like Magento allows you to meet the demands of complexity, to simplify, both take complexity to simplify it and scale it, but also control costs. And I think that's going to be a big benefit for wholesalers and distributors and manufacturers, particularly ones who have thin margins. You need to get to a larger order flow to become profitable, and you don't want a system that's going to be continually dragging down on rev share a percentage of everything. And that gets a little bit more granular, but I would say there's a bunch of reasons Magento's great in this space. One of them is it can handle the complexity, and you can get the different shops all in one platform in one instance, but it's also much better and easier to control costs. And you can also modernize at your own pace. Like, the platform is not going to dictate to you when to make changes. You can decide, and you can decide when to invest and how much, and then you can pause for a little bit and get the gains back and then do another advancement. So you're really not being forced by a technology company to dictate your roadmap. You can control your own roadmap and your expenses. So we'll throw a little love out to Magento, because we've been doing it for a long time. And like Matthias says, battle tested. So it's been in this game for a long time and it's proven. On that note, I'm going to get to the questions. Is that good? Okay. How does Sales Layer handle integrations with Magento? You want me to take that one, Olga?
Sure.
Yeah, I do it. So it's through an API, and there's connectors, and it depends on what platform you're handling it. But we have if you worked with us, we have a pre-built connector, so it connects automatically. Particularly if you're using the Send system. So I hope that answers that question. It is a push-only model, or it can support bidirectional. It can support bidirectional. So a lot of times with the PIM, you're going to want to push out to the e-commerce, and there's not a lot of flow back, but you can set it up that you can change data on the e-commerce platform, and the PIM will inherit those changes. But you have to think through your processes first, because there could be some crossover there. Olga? Okay.
Yep.
And then what is your typical implementation timeline? If that's for PIM only, I'm going to let Olga jump in on that.
Yeah, I can answer that. Sure, no problem. So our implementation times historically have been 6 to 10 weeks. It depends on your the complexity of your data model, but Sales Layer is renowned to be one of the fastest PIMs to implement on the market. And I always say, don't take my word for it. Go to reliable, trusted sources like G2 and make your comparisons and see what the real users say about us.
Yeah. Yeah, it is one of the fastest, and I would say most user-friendly PIM system. The user interface is great. People love it. And it is really pretty fast to get up and running on it. Our final question, and I guess I'll take this one. How does your system handle multiple prices for the same SKU, e.g., multiple price tiers for the same product? So there's a couple different ways to do this. If you look back at this illustration, what typically the PIM does is all the product information, with the exception of a few things, when these systems are all connected. And the few things are the inventory and the prices, because the ERP is the business logic engine, and you can't have and it could be selling in different places, right? So if you're a business, you could be selling in a brick and mortar. And so these other systems don't know where those order flows are coming through, or your inventory is changing. The ERP knows. So if you're trying to tell your e-commerce head how much inventory is available, then you need to have that API connect straight to the ERP. So it's going to get most of the product information through the PIM and then just a few little things from the ERP. And that depends on, again, how you set it up, but we would consider that a best practice. And that also applies to prices. So if you want to sell, the simplest version is you have a B2B site, wholesale, and you have a retail site. Those are different prices. You send the prices through to the ERP, from the ERP to the e-commerce head, and the ERP says, hey, look, here's two prices. This is the wholesale price, this is the retail price, and you know which site to put them on. Now, if the wholesale pricing gets very complex, that becomes something you have to engineer on the e-commerce head, but those rules typically inherit from the ERP. Now, that being said, that's not the only way to do it. We've had businesses where the ERP is the single source of truth for everything, including inventory and pricing. But now you have to figure out, like, do you want the ERP to inherit those rules from the PIM? So again, it's just like getting things mapped out and logical. So there are different ways to do it, but I hope that answers that question. It depends on the company, but typically, and the good thing to know, the takeaway is it can handle that for sure. Like all those different complexities, different prices, different price groups. You can even have price per person per SKU. So you could have one buyer that has a unique price book just for that buyer, one person, one entity, and then another buyer can have a completely different price book. And that's all doable on these systems. And you can still have self-service order flow through all the systems once you get it set up. Okay, if there are no more questions, I think, and I forgot to put this slide up. My bad. So here's a QR code. Sorry, it was supposed to be up already during Q&A, but I'm Matt Harris, founder of Harris Digital. We implement this stuff. Matthias is the director of Magento Association. Thank you very much, Matthias. And then tip of the hat. And then Olga Bond, account executive of Sales Layer. Thank you, Olga. PIM Systems. If you snap this QR code and scan it, you can do a follow-up with us. We can answer more questions, or I think you can reach any of us on LinkedIn. Again, Matt Harris, Harris Digital, Matthias Schreiber, Magento Association, and Olga Bond of Sales Layer. So I don't think we have any more questions. So we are going to wrap it up. Thank you very much for joining, and I hope this was helpful for everybody.
Thank you.
Goodbye.